welcome to the Proactive Caregiving Podcast. As a CPA with over 20 years as an industry accountant, Jessica stepped away from the corporate world to become a full-time caregiver for her mother. Having learned invaluable lessons along the way, she is now here to share those with you and to invite you to join her on this caregiver's journey. Here is your host, Jessica Cannon.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I'm the Proactive Caregiver, and I specialize in educating others on how to be proactive by empowering the caregiver. If you cannot take care of yourself, then you cannot take care of your loved one. So over the years, taking care of Mom, it came to be a challenge to maintain her home and ours. We had to downsize Mom from her first residence to her final residence 3 times. In the beginning, most of our concerns related to simple yard or pool maintenance, but then it became more involved with major repairs and upkeep along with safety concerns. The idea of letting go of our childhood home was so upsetting, and yet the choice still had to be made for so many reasons. Ironically, my siblings were not in agreement with when Mom was ready to downsize the first time. We thought we had to convince her, but it was the other way around. This is why today I understand that so many caregivers not only face this difficult decision, eventually they come to realize it's time to downsize. It's a cathartic process full of landmines of emotions. And this is why I asked Kim Stanley, the owner of Downsizing My Home and author of How to Make a Downsize Move, which is an excellent step-by-step guide, to join me today to help us step through the best way to approach this stage in our journey. Thanks for coming on, Kim.
Yeah, thank you.
So, like I mentioned, we did this with Mom 3 times. And the first time was the absolute hardest, most emotional, heart-wrenching experience. How did you come to creating this downsizing company?
Well, it started as a professional frustration and continued on as a personal tragedy. But this was in 2007, so it was a few years ago. I was actually living in Columbia, Missouri, and I was a new real estate agent. I had been given the task of helping to represent an upscale condo development that was very attractive to empty nesters and boomers, early retirees, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And they were beautiful communities, beautiful condos. And I would sit there on the weekends. People would come in and they loved it. But when I asked them, great, now how can we help you go from where you are now to one of these beautiful condos? Mm-hmm. You know, their faces would fall and they'd shake their heads and they'd say, oh, there's no way. Mm-hmm. We have way too much stuff. You know, we have our stuff, our kids' stuff, our parents' stuff. We don't know where to start. And they would just go away. And it was frustrating to me because, of course, I wanted to make a sale, but also I wanted to help these people. I didn't want to see them be stuck. And literally, weekend after weekend, I would hear that these people were stuck with their stuff.
Yep.
And I thought, well, there's got to be something out there to help these people. And at the time, I couldn't find anything. I was looking for something that was hands-on tools for able-bodied people. There were a few places where people who were moving into assisted living, there were move managers to help them. But this was just something for people to make good decisions, to feel a sense of peace, a sense of letting go, and then to have the project management piece of it. You know, and I don't know how it worked for you, Jessica, but I know that's the hardest part is where do you start? How do you get started?
Absolutely.
And then, yeah. So shortly after that, I found out that my mom, who lived in Northern Iowa, she was very healthy, very health conscious, very vibrant woman. But she couldn't finish her sentences, which was strange because she talked all the time and she was a very verbal person. So I went up to see her, and she lost a lot of weight and was very frail. And everybody was worried about her. So we brought her back down to Columbia and did tests and found out that she was riddled with brain cancer. And that's why she couldn't speak. So we just moved her in and took care of her and until she passed away. And that, it rocked my world.
Absolutely.
Because it was such a switch from really, really healthy to terminal. So after that, I had to liquidate her estate, and I was an only child. So it was me and my husband. And we learned a lot in that process, but it was the same thing. I'd pick up, a vase or, a collectible and go, what would mom want me to do with this? What do I want to do with this? And it was very, like you said, it was very gut wrenching, not knowing how to make those decisions. So I worked through it. It was exhausting, took several months, and we finally got her home ready, got it sold, and I brought a whole bunch of stuff back with me and stuck it in my basement where it stayed for a while. And I thought, nobody should have to go through this. There's got to be a better way.
I know.
So I just sat down and started creating a system, step by step. Where do you start? How do you make good decisions? Where do you go from there? What's the next step? What's the next step? And if you break all those things down, like any kind of big project, into doable subsets, and then you let yourself go through that, it's doable.
Right. It is.
So that was the foundation of my book. The book that I have now is the third edition of that. The step-by-step guide to a right-sized lifestyle. And I've dedicated it to my mom.
Sweet.
And I was fortunate because my mom she was an elegant entertainer. She had nice things. She wasn't a hoarder or anything, but there was lots of stuff, how that goes. So, but that's my story. And that's what launched me on this thing. And I've been very passionate about it ever since.
And that's where the living life experiences, these types of experiences, you can't help but to be this passionate about it.
Yeah.
I love that this is what came out of your experience.
Yeah. So I have a real soft spot in my heart for caregivers. I mean, I tell them, you are earning your angel wings because it takes so much. And it is one of the toughest jobs in the world. And I think when adult children step into that role, it gives you the opportunity to carry a lot of baggage with it, to pick the baggage up, to pick up guilt, pick up resentment, pick up conflict, unresolved conflict, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And those are all things that don't need to be picked up, but it's very difficult. So
it's interesting that you say that, because those are the things that I found as we were downsizing mom the first time and boxing her things up. It was almost like the guilt and that resentment was something tangible. And as we were picking up the items and wrapping them up, however careful we could, and boxing them up, it was like we boxed up that guilt and resentment and we took it with us to the next house.
Yeah.
It's there, and it's hard not to approach that. But when you have someone there that is like you and the company you created that helps with the management of it, maybe the resentment and guilt may still be there, but it may be in such a way that you can actually be productive and function within it so that you can do and get through the downsizing.
Yeah, and if the kids will just kind of allow that to happen, because nowadays a lot of adult children do not want their parents' things.
Yeah,
I advised one gal one time. She was a professional organizer, and she said, her mom said, "Don't you throw my stuff away when I'm gone." And and I said, "Well, why do you think she said that?" She goes, "I don't know, because I don't want it." I said, "It's because it represents who she is."
Yeah.
And she's afraid that you'll throw her away and forget her.
Exactly.
And she said, I told her, I don't want any of your stuff. And I said, you need to pick a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Mom, I don't have room, in my house, but I would love to have, I've always admired this, even if you didn't. I've always admired this, and pick something that she loves. Say, I would love to have that. I would love to have that now to remember you by, while you're alive. And I know people have done a lot of different ways. And that's one thing that I've seen people do that really reduces conflict is they start giving their things away while they're alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great way to pass on your legacy, your love, and let other people take care of it.
That is another area that you had suggested, and I loved it. You have excellent videos that instead of having a house warming party, we to have a house unwarming party to give items away. That's an excellent idea.
Yes. Yeah. And you can invite, now you have to be careful, but in a few months, I believe that we'll be able to open our lives and our homes up
to
people. And you can invite your friends and make a party out of it, and almost like you're having a little sale or something. And put your things out that you want to give away, and say, hey, you get to take it. Another thing that I find sometimes, not always, but sometimes is an issue is conflict among siblings about who gets what.
Oh, yes.
Mom said I could have that, or I really want that. And there's lots of ways to overcome that. If there is that conflict, you can have what do I want to call it? Like almost like a game. You make a game out of it where everybody gets so many chips or so many dots,
true.
And you put your initials on it, and then whoever puts, everybody has a limited supply. So whatever is most important to that person, they put all their, kind of like a silent auction.
Right. A family auction.
You bid on it. You bid the most of your monopoly money there on that, then that's yours.
True.
And that helps eliminate some of that too.
Yeah. And those are the areas that it's, no matter how we approached it, we still just headbutted, because out of the three of us, and with all of Mom's items, if she had multiple of something, then it was easy to say, you got this, I got that, and she gets that. But when it comes down to those very small coveted items, it gets a little bit more difficult deciding who gets it. And, and saying, Mom said I could have this years ago. And years ago, Mom may not remember that she said that years ago now.
Uh-huh.
So it does create a little bit of an argument, but we move around that. And so one of the things that you had suggested was there is this idea of throwing the stuff away and then them feeling like you're throwing the idea of them away. And that was something that my mom would say, you're from the throwaway generation. I would tell her, you're from the hoarding generation. Sorry. And then I did realize in front of her at some point, I would say, I really want this. And I tried to find something small that I would have space for, but not take a lot of things, and which would turn our garage into the same state that her garage was in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that happens. I've seen people become hoarders because they took all of their family things when their parents died into their home because they couldn't make a decision and they felt guilty and they thought, well, I'm supposed to keep all this stuff because it was our parents and blah, blah, blah. And so what happens is their home becomes so cluttered that, and they're stuck. There's actually an energy, a lack of flow of energy when you get too much stuff.
Yes.
And that tends to start creating that hoarding situation. It's not that you're bringing a lot more stuff in. It's that you already have so much clutter that it creates an imbalance mentally in your mind, and really a blockage of flow physically and just energy wise.
Right. You get that stagnant energy in the house from what's already there in addition to what you're bringing into it. And then you feel trapped and you start making these little pathways to walk through.
Yeah.
So when the caregivers are finally able to decide they are, whether it's in tandem with their loved one or not, and they finally decide it is time to downsize, what do you call, or what do you refer to as the downsize dance?
Oh, the downsize dance. That's when you know you have to downsize and you start the process, but you don't have a good system. That's one of the things I created in my book is a step-by-step system, a good way to make decisions. So you may start in your office or in a closet and you make a little bit of progress. Oh, I took all this stuff out to the garage and I'm going to take it to Goodwill. I'm going to take it to Salvation Army. And, I just gave away a lot of stuff. But because it's not done systematically, then you go back and you go, well, I don't look like I made much progress.
True.
And then maybe another day you'll go, oh, I'm going to clean out the pantry or whatever it is. And so you get all these little projects going around the house because you haven't decided where's the priority to start and completed that area so you see progress. So you just keep going. And then at the end of the day, you get overwhelmed and you feel discouraged because you don't see the progress. And so you stop. And I've seen that happen a lot of times. And we come in and we'll go, okay, let's pick this up, where we left off. And I think having the system and a way of making decisions and knowing who you are, what I call the hang on hang-ups. And you might have seen that in one of my blogs. I think I have like 9 hang on hang-ups. And identifying and being honest with yourself. Like, what are your hang-on hang-ups? Do you look at something and go, well, I might use it someday, or I paid a lot for it when I bought it, so I don't want to just toss it out.
Right.
Somebody gave it to us. I hear that a lot. Men have the fantasy that if I fix it, it will be a useful item. My husband has some of that. So the garage tends to be overrun with a lot of little projects that never got done.
Broken tools that might become parts for newer tools that you replace them with. Yeah, I've heard that too.
Exactly. So knowing what your hang-ups are so that when you start the sorting process and you start picking up something and going, well, I might use it someday, or it might be valuable, something that you go, okay, that's one of my hangups. And is that real? I need to check that out and see, is it real? Is it really valuable? Or is it just something that, is valuable to me? And then letting go, you have to have a way maybe to capture the memory of that thing without having to keep the thing. I have a workshop that I've done in the past called The Stories of Your Stuff. Capture the memories and let go of the stuff so that you can either tape record, do an audio recording telling the story about the thing. You can write a journal about something that was really important to you that you want to capture the story behind that. Who gave it to you? Why is it so special for you? What connection does it have to your family or your past or yourself? And then you can let it go. Take a picture of it for sure, or take a video of it, or take a video of your parents telling these stories. Those are just priceless.
No kidding. Those are those little gems that you can have later down the road that you could either view again, just, nostalgia, but you can also show those to your loved one as their memories start to fade and just have something to maybe have them, a moment for them to connect back to, maybe.
Well, and it's a legacy that you can pass down to future generations. So if somebody wants to know something more about Grandpa and what was important about this piece of woodworking that he did, and especially some of the greatest generation that's now just passing away.
I know.
Some of their stories about the war, the post-war, are just amazing.
I know.
So those are all great things that you want to capture for sure.
Yes. And those are the things that, going through and deciding what's clutter, or so much of the stuff and the items in my mom's house I saw as clutter, but just trying to decide what is the donated pile? What is the keep and downsize or can go with us as we relocate? And what is the stuff that needs to be thrown away? And some of the things that I decided I wanted to keep for her, and there was definitely no way I was going to donate them or throw them away, are the items that I still end up with later down the road going, okay, now what do I do with them? Because she had stamp collections, coin collections, things that, to some people who are willing to take the time and effort to go have them priced out and see what they're worth. It's like, I really don't have this interest. And how do I find people who do?
Yeah. You can Google just about anything and find someone. We have helped people sell a lot of their collectibles, a lot of their artwork. And there's great resources in this area, but in every larger city, you can find people who specialize in whether it's like Southwest jewelry or particular types of artwork or antiques. You name it, people collect it. And of course, there are some things that there's a glut on the market, and so they're not worth that much anymore.
True.
And every market is different. The Austin market is not a great market for antiques unless they're very rare, because we're a younger market. We have a lot of minimalists here that don't really want a lot of stuff. But
that's true.
I have a section in my book called Making Decisions About Collectibles. And it's actually a chart that I have people fill out. And then you have to fill it out. Do you use it? Do you display it? Do you still collect it? Do you love it? Do you have room for it? And is it valuable? And you have to at least have some of those items as in the yes column in order to justify keeping it.
Mm-hmm. And so while we would be filling out something like that as we would go through her information and her items. Is that something that you would consider possible for them to participate in? Or is that something like for people who do have that opportunity, like their loved one hasn't passed and they are very much so alive? Is that something that you would actually encourage or try to get them to continue to participate in? Or is it just in this downsize process better to kind of keep them busy with something else?
No, absolutely. I always think it's good to let go of it now and not, a lot of people go, well, we'll just put it in storage. And they put it in storage and then they never see it again. They're paying to have a house for their stuff.
Exactly.
And not only does the stuff deteriorate, it's not there being enjoyed, and they never go back there. 9 times out of 10, they never do. A quick story I'll tell. I was in one of the senior communities here in Austin, walking through the dining room, and I had my official logo shirt on for my company, Downsize My Home. And a lady stopped me and she said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I told her, I help people let go things. I help declutter, downsize, and just, oh, I should have you come to my storage unit and help me. And I said, "Well, how long have you had that storage unit?" And she said, 14 years.
Oh my goodness.
I said, "Have you ever been there?" "No."
Wow.
If you add it up, imagine how many thousands of dollars she spent having a house for her stuff that she never sees. And her kids, when she's gone, will just go in and have somebody just haul it away.
Yep. And I think it's why we now have shows like Storage Wars, where people bid on these storage lockers. Right. You never know what you're going to find in them. Yeah. It's the out of sight, out of mind mentality.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why when we first started to downsize, we tried in the very first. So I said we downsized Mom 3 times. We basically took her from our childhood home, and it was a 2,400 square foot home that was 2-story, and it had a fairly large backyard and a pool. And it just became way too much space for her to actually maintain and deal with on her own, especially with the yard and pool maintenance. And so then we downsized from 2-story to a 1-story, and went from 2,400 square foot to about 1,300 square foot. And we had so much furniture in all of these homes that at first the idea and the concept of a storage unit came up, and it was like, no. That's just because I was coming as the accountant business side of this. It was like, no, you're going to spend money where you should be saving that for other items that could go towards
Mm-hmm.
long-term care, for example. So trying to get through so much of these items and avoid the storage unit, because once it's out of sight, out of mind, it's forgotten. And so going through her rooms in her house, I tried to pick the rooms that were the out of sight, out of mind, that I could start decluttering with her still there, living around. And I learned right away, instead of asking, do you like this? Do you want this? Do you need this? Because she needed everything. It didn't matter. It could have been a recyclable microwave piece of gear. And she would have said, yep, I need it. And she would have, 50 of them because she needed all of them. It just came to a point where it was like, okay, I need to start making these decisions and I need to start doing this. But not having someone to help me manage it, I had my siblings. And that was just, wow.
Yeah. Well, I told you what my old adage is family should never downsize family.
Yes.
And that's because it's just too emotional. And you get, well, face it, you don't want your kids telling you what to do. And that's what happens. I just recently met with a gal, and her daughter's here. She's been here from Michigan for 2 months trying to help her mom. And, she's getting a little bit impatient. And so I could see a little testiness, but that's where we come in, and we want to honor that senior and empower them. And that's where what our color-coded sorting system does for them. They have a map of how to make those decisions. And then we give them the sorting docs, so you put the stickers on, and unless they're totally bedridden and they can't move at all, even if they're in a walker or wheelchair, they can go around and put a green dot on the things they want to have to move with them. Yes. And that is so empowering for them. I don't know why something so simple is so empowering, but it is.
Oh, yes. You feel like you're in charge, you're in control, instead of someone stepping in and taking it out away from you. I can
exactly. And I mean, who wants that to happen? This is my stuff that I've spent a lifetime collecting and using. How dare you come in and, try to tell me what to do with it? So that takes away a lot of that conflict when and then, if they go through and they dot a lot of things and it's too much, then we go, okay, let's come back and say, would you rather have this or this? This nice. Or this, and you continue to pare down. It's a process. It's not going to happen in one fell swoop. Oh, no. And as adult children, we want it to happen in one fell swoop. We have busy lives. We don't want to take the time. we don't agree with our parents on why did you have so much stuff, and so all that comes through, and it's very discounting to the senior.
Yes.
But I mean, nobody's wrong here. Yes, they have to downsize. They cannot take all this stuff forward.
Right. That's
one thing. And on the other hand, their wishes have to be honored. So,
right. You have
much
to find
better to have an uninterested third party guide that process.
Right. Right. So when you have this uninterested party come through, is this where you are actually suggesting to your clients to downsize and put this on their calendar? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's really, there's 3 hats that we wear in our company. It's the coach hat. So we're coaching our clients. And when you're coaching someone, you are guiding them, but you are letting them make the decisions. You're letting them come to an awareness of what the right next step is. So we're working with them to ask the right questions so that they come to that conclusion. We're also wearing a project management hat, which says, okay, now we know that you're going into a 2-bedroom apartment from a 4-bedroom home. So we know what will fit. And sometimes when we work with communities, we know exactly how many chairs and what size of sofa will fit and, how many bedside tables and all those kinds of things that you would need in a 2-bedroom apartment. So we can say, okay, this is the inventory list of the essentials that you're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
And so then let's measure all this furniture and let's kind of scope it out and see how it's going to fit. And so then you can make decisions from there. You can't have your chest of drawers and a little desk in your bedroom.
Oh,
so which
right.
one's most important to you? How do we solve this issue? What else can we do?
Mm-hmm. And they feel like they
did
have a
that
choice.
answer your question? I'm not sure if it did or
No,
not.
it does. It does. It absolutely does. Because we kept downsizing mom and we got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then it did come down to that, how much can fit in her space, in her room, and the community.
And a lot of times we start off with that. That's where we start. Sometimes people don't know where they're going to go, but they know about the size. Like, oh, I know I'm going to move into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath patio home, or I'm going to move into a 1-bedroom apartment. So, okay, well, let's start with that. So we know that we have this, this, and this, and what's most essential to you. Sometimes people have to let go of their bed and get a smaller bed if it just doesn't fit.
Right.
So there's some practical things. So then once those pieces, the big pieces, are put into place, then we can go and add some things. And then we can see, but we do a lot of floor planning. And what we like to do, we did this before COVID, and we're hoping to do this post-COVID, is take the client over to the apartment or wherever they're moving into and put tape on the floor of exactly the measurements of the furniture so they can see physically where everything is going to go. And they can see that, oh, I don't have any room to walk over here if I put this in here. So it helps give them a reality check.
Mm-hmm.
And this is being done by someone who's not their family member trying to tell them what to do.
Right.
But it's a professional that does it all the time that just, so it really helps. And so we become sort of co-planners, co-creators with our senior clients to help them make these decisions. And it works out really well. And then the adult children or caregivers can continue to focus on their jobs or their families or their home and check in every once in a while. We keep them in the loop on everything that's happening.
That's great. And it alleviates so much stress, so much heartache. And you can answer questions as needed, but you're not in the thick of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So I know some caregivers who they know they need to downsize, but they put it off because they're waiting for that right moment. Is there a better time to downsize during the year market-wise?
This is a good time to do the sorting. That's why, this is the time of year where I usually do sell more of my books, either right around Christmas time or right after Christmas, because people are thinking about making moves. They're thinking about, well, even if they're not going to do it for a year or two, I better start now, figuring this out. Especially the more stuff they have, the more they need to start ahead of time. So I don't know that there's any really good time. It's really, I would say, the best time is now, no matter when it is.
Exactly.
If you're thinking about it and you're going, I really need to do this, do it now. Start it now. Start with a plan and something where you can see a visible difference, so you feel like you're making progress.
And so to be able to feel like we're making that progress, you also suggest to start something or start small. So for some people, how small is small, really? I mean, how do you do that?
Small can be one shelf of a bookcase, or it could be maybe one half of a closet. But if you've taken everything out and then you're made decisions about every single thing in there, are you going to keep it? Are you going to gift it? Are you going to donate it? Are you going to sell it? Then you just put back what you absolutely love, can't live without, and is useful to you. And you step back and look. And I always suggest people take before and after pictures because you forget sometimes just how cluttered something was. We have a lot of before and after pictures of our clients' homes. And one of the things that they're so amazed by when they they leave their old home in the morning when it's moving day, and then we send them off for the day. Our movers come, they put all the stuff in the apartment, and we come in, unpack everything in one day, and make the bed and all the clothes in the closet, and take all the boxes away. So when they come in, they look at it, and we put their artwork in places where maybe it wasn't before, and it brings new life to their artwork. It brings new life to their furniture, their things, their collectibles. And it is amazing how you can make a smaller place look and feel like home.
Yes, that is so true. Rearranging the room, rearranging the space. I agree.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that make big differences. So when it comes to preparing the home, so now we've been able to downsize and things have been packed and moved and unpacked. When it comes to preparing that home for sale, are there bits of advice you can offer for the sale preparation after the downsizing?
Well, I think, you have to partner with your real estate agent and make a plan. Some real estate agents want the home to be totally vacant. Some want some of the furniture left. I know I'm also a realtor, so when I just go through and go, I'd like to hang on to this piece and this piece. This would make a nice little display area. But sometimes you just start with a blank slate, and then you have to go through and look and see and get your realtor's advice on what repairs or improvements do we need to do to get the most out of the sale. I always say, do the least to get the most, and then go through and write it down and have a punch list, and then have a lot of times real estate agents will have resources. I know we do. We have a whole cadre of handymen and landscapers and painters and everything to help make it happen fast.
That's awesome.
And this is a great time to do that because the market is so hot right now. And it makes it easier in terms of you don't have to do as much as you used to.
True.
And just working with somebody who's reputable. I have seen several clients that I feel may have been taken advantage of because, somebody's knocked on their door and said, hey, I'll pay cash for your home. And without a knowledge of did you really get a good deal on that? And was what was your home's true value? Seniors can get taken advantage of.
Unfortunately, yes, that's so true. I get those emails, I get the calls, I get the letters in the mail still with those same things. Of course, I know what that is, and so I throw them away. But
right,
a cash offer to a senior is quite tantalizing that you don't think about it.
Well, and when they say, hey, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix your house up. We'll buy it just as this. You don't even have to move all your stuff out. You just leave whatever you don't want to take. I mean, that's pretty easy, right? And on the surface, that sounds great. You just have to look and see how much are you leaving on the table in order to do that. So it's a balancing act, and hopefully the senior has a trusted advisor there that can, be on hand to help them. But I've talked to many people in the cases where they didn't have their family close and they just made a decision. A nice man came by and said, I'll give you gas. So
that's hard to take. That they could have made a different type of decision altogether if someone was there. And that's where the caregiver steps in. A lot of times that's what we have to do for our parents. And it's ironic that if we made the suggestion, they would be opposed to it. But a stranger making the suggestion, it sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely.
So this is exactly why I wanted you to be able to help with this and shed some light on this, because when you go through this journey and you realize that journey is taking you towards this eventual and sometimes inevitable downsize, the things that we have to keep in mind is that families should not downsize families. Having a professional like Kim Stanley to come in and downsize and have the management of it done so that they can pack and unpack and maybe stage the home for sale when the time comes. This is where we're going to actually get the most benefit out of this downsizing and remove the emotional landmines in this process.
Right. And yeah, there are times when family can. There are times I've seen when family members work together very cooperatively. So I don't want to insult anyone by saying, hey, you're not capable of downsizing your parents. It's not that. It's every situation is different, but I've just seen a lot of heartache that could have been avoided.
Absolutely. I know. I wish our situation was different, but it was what it was. And I've also seen other family members that are just, they get along so well. Their communication is great. They, are there for each other in all types of ways. And so it is possible to be done. It just is helpful. And even if you have that family that is in great communication and there's not as much resentment or guilt or shame or anger involved, you still have the working families.
Yes. It's just time.
Exactly. You're still
energy.
Balancing.
Yeah.
Yes. So is there any takeaway? Is there something you might suggest if someone is considering downsizing right now, other than calling you right now? Is there something you might suggest for them to consider?
Yeah, I think, like you said, start small. Pick the place that most agitates you. When you go by, you're always going, oh, I got to get that taken care of, or you just don't even want to look at it.
Right.
Maybe it's your garage, maybe it's your laundry room or your study where all the papers have piled up, or, whatever that is. Pick one part of that space or some area that you would feel so much better if it was decluttered, if you could make decisions and clear that space up. And then set times. Only do it for an hour or two at a time. You don't want to try to spend a whole day, because that's like, spending a whole day having a root canal. It's just not that much fun.
No.
So just give yourself a couple hours at a time. Just schedule it out. Say, okay, I'm going to do this these days this week. And it's on my calendar, and I'm only going to spend 2 hours. And my goal is to get this closet decluttered or get this part of my kitchen taken care of. And then you step back and take pictures of it and celebrate and, go, wow, look what I did. And then set the next goal for the next little bit that you're going to do.
Nice.
And you'll find that you've chunked it up and you've accomplished a lot.
And it wasn't as daunting as you originally thought as you get through it piece by piece, quite literally.
Yes, it will still feel like a never-ending process, but it will happen.
Right. Exactly. So how do our listeners find you? Those that are in the Austin area, how do they find you?
Well, whether they're in the Austin area or not, they can go to my website, which is downsizemyhome.biz. It's B as in boy, I-Z. And I have links to videos. I have my workbook that you can buy that is very helpful in walking through this. You can set an appointment to talk with me, or you can set a time for us to come out and even we can do as little or as much as possible. We do sometimes a get started program where we'll just go in for 3 or 4 hours and use our workbook and help you get started on it, help you see some changes right away. And then you can decide whether you want to continue on, or you've got enough information and enough help that you can take it from there. So any of that's helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent.
I just say I appreciate the conversation, and I always love sharing tips and sharing ideas with people.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're doing. These added resources help caregivers every which way they possibly can to be find some more peace of mind, some more encouragement and empowerment. So I thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I really appreciate it. Definitely,
Jessica. I appreciate the work that you're doing. It's huge. It's
Thank
huge.
you.
So let me know if there's anything else I can do.
I absolutely will. I hope this gave you more food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, be proactive. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about proactive caregiving and to hear other episodes of this podcast, please visit www.jessicalazelcannon.com. This podcast is produced by Cannon Light Media, LLC, www.cannonlightmedia.com. Music provided by Chris Paradise.